Peter, Matthew, this really kind of, as we open up, I wanted to address the two of you because both of you started your property management companies. Oh, I know, Matthew, you started yours from scratch. Peter, you can tell me, I know you didn't have any experience, like background in property management. I would love to hear how both of you went about, as you started maybe small. I know, Matthew, you started with 30 properties, how you thought about processes in the very beginning of running your company.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Spencer. So my background is engineering. So I worked as a control systems engineer. I have an engineering degree, and I worked as a control systems engineer for 5 years. During that time, my business partner and I bought up a few single family homes. So this is from like 2008 to 2012. Working as an engineer, buying like one single family rental per year, self-managing. And we were both looking for an exit from our day jobs. And what we thought we were going to do is start a little management company just to kind of pay the bills while we went hard on buying more rental properties. And that was going to kind of be our main thing. Well, once we got started managing properties, it sort of took all of our time. Shocking, I know. And we didn't end up buying too many more properties ourselves. Instead, the management thing started to take off. And here I am, we actually just celebrated our 10-year anniversary here at RL Property Management. So when we started, I had no background, no experience. No one in the family, owned rentals or anything like that. So we had to figure out all the processes from scratch. And right or wrong, picture me like 15 years ago, younger, more arrogant, right? More think I know more,
All right.
And I was like, we're going to figure this out. How hard can this be? So I didn't go find a mentor or go work at an office for a year. We just like started. So the processes in the beginning was, there was nothing, there was hardly anything written down. It was just me and my partner winging it. And as we grew, and we started this sort of started to become a real going concern, as they say in the accounting world, is when we were like, okay, we need to actually document some of this, partially so that we get it right every time, and partially so that we can start to bring in employees and have them execute these processes.
Yeah, this is why Peter is on talking about processes and not me, and I'm going to keep my mouth shut. When I started my business, it was, those of you who know my personality, it was processed through brute force. I'd remember to do something and then I would go do it. And I just kind of kept up. As you know, when you start a business, you just know everything that's going on in the business. And so you kind of like create these daily to-do lists. And then I would, knock those to-dos off. And then you'd wake up the next morning and so-and-so hadn't paid rent. And so I don't have an engineer brain. I didn't come from a real job. I kind of always been out doing my trying to make it on my own.
Hustling. You were out hustling. Is what
I was
doing.
out hustling. Yeah. And as you know, Spencer, we kind of like fell into the business back during the recession. And the story goes, we owned 30 homes that we couldn't sell 07, 08, and started a business as a result of it to manage those. And then Spencer, you were kind enough to give me your 30 or so homes. And so we managed like 60 or 70 homes when we got started. But even 60 or 70 homes, you kind of know everything that's going on in the business. And as we started growing, you mentioned you were going to ask this question. I did try to get excited about processes. I'd read the book E-Myth, which I think Peter calls one of the top 5 or top 3 books that you need to read when you're starting a business. And so I went out and you mentioned this, I went into the cardboard boxes and found the Golden Key process manual. So I did spend some time doing this. And it even has a table of contents, and so this will go one day maybe in the Evernest archives. But client and property acceptance. So I did get kind of, my guess is when I wrote this was about somewhere between 150 and 200 homes. But I didn't do it as a result of like being strategic, like it sounds like Peter was. I did it because I started to create pain. Oh, look at that. Yeah, but you had a great brand to start out with. You didn't have to like change the brand. And so I didn't do it as a result of being really strategic. It was just like created pain. And so as we started hiring people, I thought it would be really important to write some of these processes down, and help with that.
So both of you have these folders. I mean, what the first people that you hired, were they coming over to the folder and opening the folder and flipping pages and saying, what do I do now? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
it worked.
We had, really similar to what Matthew was describing. We had operations binders, just like the one I showed, for each position. And we would fill that with company policies and procedures and checklists and forms and things like that. So that, it was very manual. Every time a new employee started, you had to like reprint this whole thing. I remember being up late, 10 p.m. the night before a new employee is supposed to start. I'm like printing out all this stuff. And then I'm like, wait, I thought we updated this. And I would like go hunt around for the new version. And, cause I really wanted folks when they came on board to be able to reference this information. And it worked quite well. In retrospect, I always felt like we were super disorganized, but in retrospect, I think we were actually ahead of the average small business owner for the time. And we've since moved all that stuff to Notion, and maybe we'll talk about that at some point. But I do think it's important to draw a distinction between sort of reference material, which is a lot of what would be in that binder, and then how you actually execute your common core processes. You don't necessarily want to document like a lease renewal process on some Word document or in Notion, because that's a living, breathing process that's happening multiple times every week and needs to be tracked, step by step by step by step. Who's doing this? What's the status? When was it started? When was it completed? So sometimes I think folks get a little bit caught up in like, they want to make a process out of everything. And I'm like, you don't need a process in software for that. You just need 5 bullet points in a paragraph with maybe a screenshot on a web page somewhere that someone can look at if they need to know how to do that.